Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV.
Hey, I'm Lynn, your co-host.
Let's secure, foresee, and get underway. Tax season is now upon us, and it's always a good time for anyone, business owner or not, to look for ways to decrease your taxes and increase your revenue.
Today's podcast guest, Courtney Epps, takes this one step further by saying that you would be unwise not to own a business.
Courtney Epps is a well-known chief financial officer, TED Talk veteran, and author of the appropriately named More Relaxing, Less Taxing.
She has fascinating insights on how owning and operating a home-based business can help you in your overall tax liabilities position.
This opens up a whole new benefit to running a business beyond just generating a profit.
So, hey, Courtney Epps, welcome to the Home Business Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing from North Carolina?
South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, but I'm doing great.
Outstanding. Can we see a copy of your book cover?
Yes.
Thanks. And we'll make sure we add some information on that on the website. So we're excited to learn a little more about your advice on the tax world and making it all work better with a business. So thanks for joining us today.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me on.
So, Courtney, let's get to know you better. What motivated you to write your book, More Relaxing, Less Taxing?
So, one of the biggest things for people, I think, is very upsetting when you figure it out is that the average household is literally going in debt about $7,000 a year. And so you've got to make it easy for people to understand that how do we fix this problem? Well, we fix the problem by decreasing taxes. And so I have been an accountant for the last 19 years. I'm a tax strategist, and I have a multi-million-dollar accounting practice in Greenville, South Carolina. We handle and service people all over the country in every single state. But you've got to make it super simple and break it down for people to say, one, how am I losing money? What can I do to fix the problem? And so, the book was the next step. Speaking and teaching is one thing, then giving someone that tool for the book was another. And I wrote that about 2.5 years ago.
So we can wait for our legislatures to cut our taxes, but I guess we could be waiting a long time, or we can look at some, the complexities of it and the reality of where our tax system is, and look at some ways within the current system that we can cut our tax liabilities. So I guess that's kind of more what your book focuses in on then.
Yes, definitely. And the whole point is to teach people the only way that you can truly, work through this whole system with taxes is that you have got to be some sort of business owner. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to do it full time. It could be part-time. It could be 3 to 5 hours a week, spending, just a little amount of time to allow you to have massive tax deductions. So there's 2 tax systems in our country, and there's one that was created to steal wealth away, and that is literally the W-2 employee tax system. And then there's a tax system that was created to provide wealth for you, and that's the business owner tax system. So that's really the focus, is to help people understand, why you have to move into that second system, which you can't ever get ahead if you don't over time. Like it was created like 401ks. You've got the insurance, you've got taxes, all of that stuff just steals away your money.
Kind of like it rigs the system almost.
Exactly. And so 2.5 years ago, right before I started writing this book, the statistics is what really got me and hit me so hard. It was that the average household income in America is $60,000 a year. They'll pay $14,000 in taxes, which is their number one expense. And from that, the take home is $46,000. Well, the problem from that is the average cost of living in America is $53,000 a year. So that's where you come up with that $7,000 a year to work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, to take 2 weeks paid vacation. And so when someone understands that, first and foremost, that they're going in debt by being a W-2 employee. Now I've got to shift over to being a business owner. Well, how do I do that? And what is the best way
Sounds
to
like
do
it's
that?
that old English debtor prison that they've
Yes,
that they've set up.
exactly.
Well, we always talk about a home business being, it's all about generating profit, but you're generating a profit if you're reducing your tax liability.
Right.
A dollar's a dollar. So this kind of segues into the second point we wanted to hit, which operating a home-based business is a way to improve your tax position. Can you share some key points of this benefit of
Yes.
running a smaller home-based business?
Yeah, and the thing is what most people don't realize is $1 is more like $1.30. So you'd rather keep more of your money than you would make more, because you've got to pay taxes on the money that you're making. So when you first understanding, okay, now I need to be a business owner. Well, what's the importance of being a home-based business owner? Well, the great thing is that you have the ability to redirect your living expenses and turn those into business expenses. So people think that running a business is very expensive, and it's not. It is literally, I'm now in business, and so now my cell phone is a tax deduction. Now my meals, if I'm going out to eat and talking to people about my business, that's now a tax deduction. A portion of my home is a tax deduction. A portion of my internet is a tax deduction. So if I, upgrade my home, a portion of that can be tax deductible. Now I can hire my kids and pay them to work for me. That's a tax deduction. So all of these things, we were spending money anyway. Now you just have the ability to redirect those living expenses and turn those into business expenses. And the only thing that you have to do is attempt to earn an income, meaning that you're opening your mouth, you're messaging someone, you're posting something on social media or marketing that, and that's attempting to earn an income per the IRS.
Yeah, I mean, it's all legal and it's all above board. You're running a business, and the ease of running it from home is that you can easily make this transition without, say, the structural impediments of going to an outside office and setting everything up. I mean, you pretty much have all the tools already within your home. I mean, who doesn't own a computer nowadays or a phone? You pretty much already have all the tools within your home office. Even if a lot of people don't even have home offices anymore. They just run it from wherever to launch a business.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. It's like, if you have a, open room or half a room that you could utilize for business purposes, it has to be specific for that. You can't have like a bedroom, like a bed and an office inside that same facility. You'd have to, get rid of the bed, but there's so much that you can do that people just don't realize. So the minute I become a business owner, if a lot of times I tell people, find something you're passionate about, something you can just open your mouth and talk about with ease. And it may not be that you want to start a business. You may want to be in network marketing or affiliate marketing, or you find a product that you want to offer and sell that. So just find something. And then the minute you start telling people I'm now in business, cell phone, meals, mileage, internet, business use of home, you've got travel, you've got continuing education, all of these things open up. And the more money you make, obviously the more money you can actually keep. And there's other legal, moral, and ethical ways that you can keep more money as you continue to make more money.
Yeah, we always just mentioned to, talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer, get some advice when you're starting things up, just so, they have rigged the system. So there's so many different things you can step into that create problems. And it's always good to also get have someone looking over your shoulder too, and making sure you're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's.
Yes, definitely. And, one of the, well, let me just share this. One of the things I think that people kind of put off is that they will start a business, and it's fine if you're in the network marketing space, or if you're in affiliate marketing space, it's fine for you not to have a LLC set up. But I really suggest someone who's, starting a blog, or they want to become a photographer, or they want to be an author, whatever it is that you want to be in lawn care. I would suggest that you start by getting an LLC in place first. You don't have to necessarily go to an attorney for that. They're very inexpensive, under a couple $100 for most states, but that's very important for liability purposes. So if somebody would ever come back on you, then you would be covered under your limited liability company.
A good point.
So we're all impacted by COVID, and this has really accelerated the numbers of people working from a home office. Courtney, are there any new tax regulations or tax guidance we should consider from COVID changes?
So you would think that there were some changes, and there's not. None actually has happened as far as COVID goes. The only sad part is that there are no expenses that can actually be written off for W-2 employees. But that does mean that business owners obviously are working more from home than they are working away and from their home. So they may have an office. I'm in a real estate office right now, and the real estate agents are working a lot more from home. And if that is their primary work location, then they would have more of a deduction from that. But as far as COVID is concerned, yes, there are a lot more people working from home. I think it creates that requirement for people to start finding other ways to have some sort of business from home and be able to make income from home instead of focused on the outside world, on going and being a W-2 employee for someone. So that is one of my biggest, advice that I can possibly give. I think COVID opened up the world for people to understand you need something else. You don't just need a plan A. You really need some sort of plan B, and do something on the side that you can do from anywhere, whether it's from the mountains, whether it's from the beach, whether it's from your home, and make that happen sooner rather than later.
Well, the key point you just said was on the side. And then, you can do
Yes.
this part-time. You can work it around your current W-2 job that you may be working from your home office now because of COVID. And that's an often overlooked benefit of home-based, is how well it dovetails into operating on a part-time basis, at least getting started. You still get all the tax benefits from that.
Yes. And it's just like you guys doing a podcast, right? So, you can do that podcast from anywhere. I've spent all morning looking for land, and then I stopped at the real estate office and used their internet to do this podcast. And so there's so many things like home-based. For some people, they're like, I'd never want a home-based business. Well, your home-based business doesn't have to be from your home. It could be in mountains. It could be.
I've done a podcast interview from somebody going down the LA freeway on his phone. So it's all of it. Courtney, you mentioned that not claiming all the tax liabilities that you're legally entitled to. This is like giving away your business. Can you talk a little bit about that interesting point?
Yeah. One of the, and I'll kind of tell you, we do these things called tax strategy sessions. And I started with those about a year and a half ago. And I'm like, people need the information that is in my brain. And, the sad part is that before we started that whole process, people would come to us during tax season and we would prepare a tax return. Well, it's really hard to save you money during tax season unless we can just find expenses that were missed. And so we started these tax strategy sessions, and it turns out there's really just kind of three different things that people are overpaying in taxes and why they're overpaying in taxes. And the first big one is just they don't know what they can write off. So they're not giving that information to their tax preparer, and they end up missing out on deductions. So that is a huge one. And a lot of times it's, even if you have a good bookkeeper and a good tax preparer, it is not their job to find you expenses. It is their job as a bookkeeper is to take your information, put it into an accounting software, and provide a P&L that goes to a tax preparer. Well, the bookkeeper doesn't know taxes and how to save you money. And the tax preparer, it's not their responsibility to go through those books and make sure that everything that you actually did spend money on, that you got a write-off for.
That's such a good point I want to hit, because I always recommend working with an accountant, and particularly as you get bigger, you've got to work with an accountant. But you got to remember, the accountant isn't figuring it out for you. They're figuring out what the taxes are, but you have to communicate to them, or like you said, your bookkeeper. You've got to have a basic understanding of this, and make sure they know what's in a tax liability that that impacts you.
Yes. And that has been the problem, I think, for the longest time. So that's why we kind of combined all of that together. And then you got the next step is that taking the information that the bookkeeper provides, not just preparing the tax return, looking at it and seeing what's missing. And so for the most part, a lot of times it's just a bank account that's not being tracked that actually has business expenses, or a credit card that's not being tracked in the books that has business expenses. Or it could be that things are going to what's called shareholder distributions, meaning that, if I spend money out of my bank account and it's not a business expense, a bookkeeper is going to put that to shareholder distributions. Well, as an accountant, I don't have the same deductions as I do as a speaker. So as a speaker, my hair, my nails, my makeup, my clothes that I wear when I'm speaking from stage, all of that becomes a tax deduction. Well, as an accountant, those aren't the same deductions. And so when you understand that your accountant understands their business, they don't necessarily understand your business. And that home-based business portion, there's such a misunderstanding from accountant standpoint, CPAs, tax attorneys, whatever. They don't comprehend that world of home-based business. So they almost scare you into believing that you're not allowed to take advantage of those deductions. And I'll tell you right now, for someone who built an accounting practice from scratch back from home after I lost everything I owned from a business that I sold 10 years ago, I built $1 million accounting practice working from my home with my 6 children, homeschooling all of them, and my husband being right there. And we had 13 employees at that point when we finally, the code enforcement came to my house and said, you have to relocate. And I'm like, but I don't want to, and they're like, yes, you have to. So
you need to write a new book about how launching $1 million business, homeschooling 6 kids at the same time. That's a book within itself.
It would be. I didn't even think about that. That would be a really good idea. But, when people understand, you get to take advantage of deductions that most people, even brick and mortar, don't get. So if I have a office, I can't write off my mileage from my house to my office. But if I have a home office, then every mile that I spend that has to do with business is a tax deduction. My home is now a tax deduction. Guess what? My swimming pool is a fringe benefit because I hired my employees are my children, and I allow them to swim in my swimming pool, and that swimming pool is connected to my property. So that is a $60,000 tax deduction because that's considered a fringe benefit, right? So many things that you can do. So the first step of the deductions that are always missed, always, for every $250,000, we find at least $25,000 to $50,000 in deductions, which equates to between $12,000 and $20,000 in tax savings. So that's a huge win.
That can make the difference between having a profitable business or not when you factor those into your expenses.
Yes. And then so once you have a business and you found the deductions, the structure is extremely important next, because if you have a business, you can take your business as an LLC, let's say a limited liability company, and you can treat that as something called an S corporation for tax purposes. And what that truly means in a nutshell is you can bypass 80% of your self-employment taxes, which literally could cut your tax bill in half, if not even more, because it's 15.3% of every dollar you make in net income. So there's just so many things. And then next, as you become an S corporation, you're required to have what's called payroll. You're required to pay yourself, but that is very minimal amount. So people are overpaying themselves in a paycheck, which in turn forces them to pay more in self-employment taxes.
Well, you've hit a lot of the points already. I just want to give you a chance to recap anything else, because of the home office, tax deductions and expenses, have always been a landmine. How can we make sure we keep that all in compliance? And I think we've hit one of the points is to work closely with your accountant and make sure they understand how your business is working. But, say any advice on like day-to-day record keeping? I've heard of some people, they have certain apps that track their mileage and, other ways to do this efficiently, because you don't want to get too bogged down with bookkeeping.
Right. So we have I will tell you, do not use an Excel spreadsheet. It's not going to help you if you get audited, first and foremost. Okay. So a lot of people, they think, I'm going to take my bank statements, I'm going to create an Excel spreadsheet. That's going to be fine. That has
No.
proven not to be okay when you're dealing with an audit. And the reason why is auditors are lazy. So they want you to provide a profit and loss statement for them. They want you to provide a general ledger, which gives them all the details of everything that you spent, and that kind of backs up to your bank statement. So the easiest way to do that, one is using QuickBooks. I would say QuickBooks Online. It is a harder program to learn how to use if you're not an accountant. So I would suggest if you're making more than around $150,000 a year, you hire a bookkeeper to handle the bookkeeping. But if you're making less than that, there's a really good software. We have an enterprise version of it. It's not something you can go directly to Hurdler's website, but it's called Hurdler. And what it will do, it'll do your mileage tracking, but it'll also pull in all of your bank statements, all of your credit card statements. It'll pull the transactions in for you, and all you have to do is list whether they're business or personal, and whether or not they are, what type of business it is. And that'll
I got a confession to make. I mean, you mentioned that about bookkeeping. I don't know what it is, but I migrated over to QuickBooks. I got a pretty large operation. I kind of do my initial my raw bookkeeping every day. I find that it doesn't take that much time with QuickBooks once you learn to but it seems like you kind of keep a pulse of your business when you're, taking a look at the revenue and expenses each day. I don't know. I think I should turn it over to a bookkeeper, but that's a good point you have.
Yeah. Well, and it's just, obviously it is really great if you are doing the work, but the majority of business owners, entrepreneurs especially, are not willing to do the bookkeeping. And so what ends up happening is they don't do it for 6 months. No one does it.
Right.
They have no clue where they are. They don't know what their income is. They don't know what their expenses are. They don't know their profit margin. And they obviously don't know their tax liability. So that becomes a major issue. And, you could really help drive someone, especially, what we do with our clients is we do 2 tax strategy sessions a year. We do one right after the tax return, and we do one at year end. And so, someone will book a tax strategy session and I'm like, where's your books? Well, I don't have them. Well, what's your income? What's your expenses? I don't know. So it's very hard. I can throw things at people and say, we can hire your kids. We can pay them $12,000 a year. We can wipe out, there's no taxes on any of that money. So we can income shift. We could, buy a truck, or you could, do a conservation easement. But I don't know that you need those things. I don't know what you need without a good set of books. So that is crucial for tax planning.
And you might lose out even if you have the good set of books. If you put them together after the fact, you could run into some problems if you come in, almost halfway into the next year, and you're trying to claim something the previous year. You've got to have these systems in place and be aware of them real time.
Yes. I was able to wipe out $500,000 worth of my own, not tax liability, but about 200,000 of that would have been tax liability by having a good set of books. And I mean, we've had clients that we've saved millions of dollars to the tune, almost $3 million a year in taxes by doing their books and keeping up and saying, hey, do this, do this, do this. And as you continue to make more money, it becomes more and more important. But here's the one thing I will tell you, as far as keeping up day to day, a calendar is really good. You can't knock a calendar. I know where I'm at all times. I can prove at any point in time that I am attempting to earn income or I'm not. So a calendar is really good to keep track of. But the other thing is the books are helping you not only save money, but helping you run your company. And so that's crucial. But then you've got the audit protection of if you were to ever get audited and you have a good set of books, you have nothing to worry about. And then on top of that, you're going to save money all at the same time. And if you have someone to do the work, here's what I'll tell you. Do not do your own taxes, period. Do not prepare your own taxes.
I said I might try bookkeeping, and just because it doesn't take that much time each day, but taxes, forget it. And I tell you, my experience on that is a good accountant will save you far beyond whatever your expenses are for that accountant.
Yes. And then you have, I have 5 clients this year that decided to use TurboTax. They were not my clients before. They became my clients, and they got audited from the TurboTax. And it wasn't anything to have to do with their business. It was a box they checked incorrectly. And because of that, they got audited, and then they went after their business. And so it ended up costing them to pay me to go back and redo all their books to provide that to the auditor. And see, if you get audited by if the tax preparer did your return, they can't charge you for the audit. So, there's major audit protection in that. And then if we mess up, we have audit protection to cover, up to $2,500 of a penalty for an error. And then on top of that, you're less likely to be audited if you have a tax preparer. And then even better still, when you have an S corporation in place, you're 10 times less likely to be audited as opposed to having a sole proprietorship. So
yeah, that's a good point you bring up. By seeing that you've done something with your business, LLC, but critically having a CPA on signing off the taxes, I think that makes a big difference when it comes down to who they're going to decide to audit.
Yes, and they don't have to be a CPA. I'm not. I wasn't an enrolled agent for 19 years. Didn't want to be. And I'll tell you the reason why is because CPAs abide by something called a Circular 230 rule. And what that means is they cannot be overly aggressive with the tax return. And if they are, they can lose their rights to ever file a tax return again. That's why very often you see there's not a whole lot of me walking around preparing tax returns and speaking about tax savings all at the same time. You'll find that there are people who teach it and there are people who do it, but there's not a lot of people who do both. And the reason why is because they don't want to ever have their firm audited. And so I know the tax code. I'm an enrolled agent, and an enrolled agent has a credential with the IRS. Is actually the only credential that you can get with the IRS. But I didn't have that for 19 years. I didn't have time to go take the test. And I ended up taking all 3 parts in a matter of a week, and I was finished with it. So I wrote a book, I got a doctorate, and then became an EA kind of all in the same year.
Wow. So along with improving your tax position, do you have any advice on how to better maximize your business's cash flow and revenue?
So one of the things, crazy enough, if you keep up with your books and you are focused on what your profit margins are, because granted, there's a lot of people who make a lot of money and run themselves out of business because they don't know their profit margin. To kind of give you, for instance, on that, me and my husband had a screen printing company long ago, I guess it's been 10 years ago. And it was when I sold my accounting practice and insurance agency I lost everything. So I sold it, and the guy sold it to stop paying me after 4 months. So I was $250,000 in debt, and I had a non-compete in the entire state of South Carolina for anything involving insurance and accounting. And so we started a fundraising company and vinyl signs and banners and things like that. And I got a contract with Walgreens, and I thought we were doing amazing. And I did not realize the money kept going out of the account, and we kept having less and less and less money as the money kept coming in. And I realized that the print cost that the person we bought this machine from, the printer cost was 3 times what they told me it was. So we were losing $1.50 off of each shirt. Every time we printed a shirt, I was losing $1.50, and I'm an accountant. But the thing is that most people would have ran out of business before they figured it out, because they were not focused on how much money it's costing them and what their profit margins are. They were just focused on selling. And the more we sold, we were actually losing money. So your books are the foundation of your company, and you have to know where you are. And as you continue to grow, it is very important and very imperative for you to keep real time, just like you said, Richard, keeping up with your books. It helps you understand, where am I putting my money to? And what is my tax liability? Because people come to me all the time, they're like, Courtney, my net income says I made $250,000 and I have $30,000 in the bank.
Where's it all going?
Where is it all going? Well, it goes to your pocket to cover your expenses personally. But then a lot of times people don't think about it, is that you may have borrowed money, or you had like a vehicle and you wrote off that vehicle in the very beginning, and now you're paying for all the expenses for it. So what's on your bottom line is has nothing to do with how much money's in your bank account, but that's how much money you're going to pay in taxes. So those numbers, having that information, and as you continue to grow, I mean, I would say around 5 million, you've got to hire a full-time CFO, but I would tell you around 150,000 to 200,000 a year, you've got to get someone who is knowledgeable in your industry, who is going to be really focused on how to decrease taxes, but how to help you kind of give you that understanding of here's your books and this is what you need to do moving forward.
Kind of like in a nutshell here, the best way to maximize that cash flow and revenue, it gets back to just having that pulse on your business, because reframing, that's such a key point you brought up, that so many business owners, they're waking up every morning and they're all entirely focused on sales and revenue generation. They don't see this other side. I mean, I'm having trouble figuring it out right now. I'm saying, your good grief, I've made all this money this year and it was the same thing. Where is it?
Yes.
And it's
you got to pay taxes, and there's nothing left to pay taxes on.
No.
And then that's where you get into an issue, and a lot of times people do it with payroll, but and it's hard to start a business. That's one of the reasons why I tell people, why would you ever start a business, a brick and mortar business, when you can start from home? Because you have limited expenses, then you don't have so much pressure on you. But the sad part is that people don't take it seriously because they don't have those expenses. My office rent now is $100,000 a year. My payroll is $15,000 a week. If I don't take it seriously for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, there may be a problem. But if you have a home-based business and you don't have those expenses, if you take a week off or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and you're not putting in the work, it's okay for the majority of people. So I wish people would just really treat their business like it is a legitimate business from the beginning. I had someone, post something on a home business page. They're like, don't quit your day job until you know that you have a full-time income.
Well, that's for sure.
But here's the thing. I've never had a day job. I came out of high school saying, I'm never going to let anybody tell me what to do. And because I had to create an income, because I had to provide for my family, we figured out a way. And if I had something to back up, if I had something to step back on, I wouldn't have done that. I would have just made it an easy path. So, sadly enough, people go from, they will allow a $50,000 a year job to stop them from making $500,000 a year. And going from someone like me, who in 2013, after losing my business, was making $9,000 a year, is what I made in 2013 for my accounting practice. And now we're making $500,000 a month. It's a little different. And I built that 9 years. For 9 solid years, I built that from home. And so you can do it. You just have to be willing to put in the time and the effort and the energy. And when people are constantly attacking you, saying, you know what, you didn't come to this event, or you didn't do this, or you didn't go to this family function, there was stuff that I missed for my children. But now I'm spending $500,000 and buying a river, half of a river, 150 acres worth of land that my children, my boys, my 3 boys, and I've got 3 girls, that we can build homes on, that we can fish in, that we can take our toy hauler and do whatever we want. We get to choose our life now, instead of getting, allowing money to choose what we want in life. And so it is hard in the beginning. It is not easy to become a business owner, but boy, it is so rewarding after you put in the time and the effort and energy, that it will reap the rewards. And now I built a legacy company so that my children don't ever have to look for a job. Like, they'll always have a business, and it's sustaining itself. We have 20 employees now. We expect to have another 10 in the next 6 weeks, and we're just growing and growing and growing. And that's obviously, for me, that's the American dream. And it may not be for everyone, but man.
Sounds like you had to take some risks.
Yes.
And you, had to burn the midnight oil a few times, and, that's all there's it's always a zero-sum game, but if you do it right, you'll achieve some good success the way you have.
Yes, it's been amazing. I can't imagine, and one of the things I want to share this is that the focus has always been on giving back. So if you help enough people get exactly what they want, you'll automatically get what you want. And that, Zig Ziglar said that. And so we started almost 3 years ago. Next month will be 3 years. We started providing, for every dollar that came into our accounting practice, we started providing a serving of advanced immune support to medically fragile and malnourished children. And we're up to 15,000 servings a day. So we provide for 15,000 children every single day. And my goal is in the next year to get to 50,000 servings a day. So I don't have a money goal. My goal is I wanted to teach more people how to save more money so that they could have more, they could live more, and then they could see what the true meaning of life is. It's really giving more. And then from there, I get to nourish more children because I provide advanced immune support. We now provide fresh water for children for every 150.
And then that builds goodwill.
Yes, it does.
If the company's involved like that.
Yes. So that has been like this full circle. We now nourish more children. We free more children from sex trafficking. And I've created a business that I don't need a vacation from.
And it all started with working from home. This has been, it's been a great discussion on, better managing our tax liabilities and a lot of the issues behind taxation and running a business. Do you have any final points you'd like to share?
Just, find something you love and start sharing that with people so that you can at least start getting ahead. Get out of the system that was created to steal wealth away, that W-2 employee system. Find something you're passionate about. Start sharing that so that you can take the advantages of having a home-based business so that you can change your life.
Courtney Epps, thank you for being with us today on the Home Business Podcast.
Thank you so much.
To learn more about Courtney Epps, her tax and business advice, and her book, More Relaxing, Less Taxing, please check out otbtax.com or our podcast website for more information.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at our website, homebusinessmag.com.
Check out the website for information on advertising, subscribe to our newsletter, read our book, The Home-Based Business Startup Guide. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com and homebusinessexpo.com.
I'm Richard Captain Henderson saying anchors away.
We'll talk with you soon. Until then,
make it a great home-based biz day.